Welcome to Win It Real Estate. I'm Lori Hopkins-Cavanagh. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for joining me every Sunday from 11 to noon here on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. This past March, a member of the Eastern Connecticut Association of Realtors and a past candidate for the 2nd Congressional District seat, John Ragsdale, his home on Ram Island burnt to the ground. So John and Ann Ragsdale lost all of their personal possessions and their home, a home that had no insurance because of where it was located. The home was on a 16-acre private island, and the Mystic Fire Department could not save the home, couldn't battle the fire on the island, and so John and Ann are left with no personal possessions, just the clothes on their back. If you would like to make a donation to help them, the Eastern Connecticut Association of Realtors is collecting checks, donations, made out to John or Ann Ragsdale, and you can send those checks to ECAR, E-C-A-R. The address is 106 Route 32, North Franklin, Connecticut. That's Eastern Connecticut Association of Realtors, or ECAR, 106 Route 32, North Franklin, Connecticut. Just like Ann and John Ragsdale's home, many things are burning down these days. One of the areas I would like to just take a look at briefly is the online news media and its evolution from print newspapers to online everyday use of news sources. Patch was one of those sources that was recently sold in January. Patch is owned, or was owned rather, entirely by AOL, and they sold the majority of that company to a company by the name of Hale. It's a New York-based firm that focuses on technology investments. The reason I'm talking about this is that we need to look at every company that acquires news media outlets. If you control the news media, you control minds. And we know how successful the liberal media has been in acquiring the minds and hearts of American citizens by feeding them propaganda and giving them one side of the story and controlling the outcome of very important events like elections. Patch has more than 900 sites across the United States, according to a statement made in January. And the organization covers mostly school board meetings, local businesses, and other neighborhood stories because it's a zip code-based news organization. I personally thought Patch was an incredible idea. And in many areas, many communities, it was successful. But the sales in each zip code could not justify the expense. The expense of each zip code was estimated to be between $140,000 to $180,000. And there was a very large difference between revenues and expenses. So AOL decided that it would unload this attempt at being a advertising-driven publishing company, online publishing company. And they eliminated about 500 positions, or close to half of their 1,000 employees in August. Patch only reached about $78,000 in sales per site. So it was a major loss for this company. We'll keep an eye on Patch. We'll find out more about the company acquiring the majority stake in this organization, Hale Global. That's H-A-L-E. And of course, with every company that's burning through money, they have to turn the balance sheet around pretty quickly, and laying off hundreds of employees is the quickest way to achieve that. Patch is just one very, very small example of what is burning in our country. Had the economy been better, perhaps Patch would have survived, but it didn't. And it increased the number of people looking for work in an industry that is rapidly changing. When we look at an organization like Patch that is unable to get off the ground, a brilliant idea, but unable to create the jobs that are being lost in the news industry because newspapers are laying off and closing shop, that is just one tiny industry in our economy. Now let's take a look at a larger industry. Healthcare jobs shifted into reverse at the beginning of this year, with this sector losing jobs for the first time in more than a decade. I have been a staunch opponent to Obamacare from the very beginning. Socialized medicine is going to bring us less quality than we have ever seen in this country, unless, of course, you're a veteran. The quality of healthcare is going to decline rapidly, and you're seeing that right now in the loss of jobs. In December of 2013, healthcare companies shed 6,000 positions. And it was the first time since 2003 that this industry shed jobs. It was the only bright spot in the economic depression that we entered in 2006. They call it a recession. This is not a recession. This is an ongoing decline in our economy, in opportunity. And this is directly related to Obamacare. The hospitals have no choice but to lay off their personnel because Obamacare requires them to do so, to move their money into outpatient facilities in order to get reimbursed under Obamacare. The entire healthcare industry right now is in flux, and reimbursements for Medicare are in flux for the elderly. Medicare for the elderly. The reductions, the cuts are being felt by the elderly right now. Not just jobs, but actually the care that was once provided in hospitals is now shifting to an outpatient setting. The uncertainty of the Affordable Health Care Act is affecting the bottom line in hospitals across the country with job cuts and hiring freezes. The only companies that will be able to survive these burning down the house tactics that President Obama has inflicted on our healthcare industry are the large, multi-location, publicly traded hospitals because they have more resiliency to cut pressures because their size. They have more efficiencies with 100 facilities. But again, bigger isn't always better because it limits choice. And choice provides innovation, and choice provides freedom. And the very people that want the Affordable Health Care Act are the first to complain about big corporations. The very first to complain. And that is exactly what the Affordable Health Care Act is giving us now. Unfortunately, the reorganization that I see in the healthcare industry is not going to target the exact population that is going to need that health care, and that is the elderly. Because more and more baby boomers are reaching retirement age, and this entire healthcare reorganization is not taking care of the elderly. Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius quit her job following months and months of criticism. It's about time. The Obamacare fiasco that we're experiencing in this country is a tip of the iceberg. This was never about quality health care, affordability, or accessibility. The news media dropped the ball and continues to drop the ball on all of the most important issues that affect our welfare in this country. We have to take a short break. When we get back, we'll take a look at the tax ramifications of the Affordable Health Care Act, and you tell me if it's affordable. I'm Lori Hopkins-Cavanagh. If you like this show, like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and don't go away.